Hello again, everyone. It's TJ, Stereo-Bargainphile, bringing you my welcome to my full impressions video of Galion's very own TS-A75, which is basically a 2-channel stereo power amplifier that is Class AB. Now, this amplifier is rated at 75 watts at 8 ohms and all the way up to 100 watts at 4 ohms. But don't let the wattage fool you all, because one thing about this 40-pound Galion is it is a beast. I wanted to test it out on several different set of my speakers to see how well the amplifier can control my most demanding speakers and the overall tonal character and how well the overall resolution of the amplifier is. And one thing I will tell you all, I used many different preamps. Here's 2 shit audio Freyas. That's the Plus and the Novel. And then I also used my Burson Composer DAC as a preamp. I was shocked with this. Done a really good job. And then below that, I have my 2 Audiolab integrated amplifiers that actually have a mode with these amplifiers where you can put it in pure preamp mode. Meaning you can use it as a preamp and its internal DAC and it's all its analog inputs. And the Audiolab does turn off the internal amplifier for lower noise, so when you do hook up a power amplifier to it. So now, to kick this video off, I first want to take you all for a deeper dive inside. For the TS-A75's price point, it is very impressively built. But please allow me to do this for you, because this can be dangerous or even fatal. But one of the first things that you're all going to notice inside this amplifier is this really nice toroidal transformer rated at 200 watts. But not only do we have one mains transformer, but we have the exact same mains transformer right below it. And then Galion did use a really nice steel plate to separate them for shielding of any kind of radio frequencies. And then they have really nice metal standoffs as well. The second thing that you're all going to notice inside this amplifier, just for the power supply, we have 20 capacitors, giving us 200,000 microfarad capacitance. That's almost unheard of, you all, at this price point, especially the quality of these capacitors are ELNA for audio. You see back here in the back, we have 6 on top, 6 on the bottom. These are rated at 63 volts. But if we go over here, what I like to call the driver board, which is the amplifier module, on each side, we do have 4 more capacitors. Again, ELNA for audio. They're also 10,000 microfarads each, but those are up to 80 volts. That's right, so it is stepping up that voltage. Now let's go to the very back corner. On the right-hand side of the amplifier, if you look down here, you see we have our XLR input from the inside and our RCA input. So you do have a choice, and there's the switch below to switch between them. Now, when that signal comes in from your preamplifier, here's the first stage of amplification, and you can see that Thomas is using Napon Chemicon caps. These are really good capacitors. Not only are they good of holding a charge, but they also help with ripple effect. Then we have a bunch of WEMAs in here as well. Really good quality. Then we have a bunch of voltage regulators, even here on the top. And then here's where we have our output stage transistors. But we have one at the top, and we do have another one at the bottom, giving us a total of 4 output stage transistors. So this is a push-pull design. Then we have some really nice speaker cabling inside that is running out to your speakers. That is 14 gauge. Then right below that, you see you have your speaker safety relay. Then over here, we actually have our trimmer pot for a DC offset. But yes, this amplifier does have some really good build quality of electronic components for its price point. And overall, it does weigh 40 pounds. These heat sinks are very robust. I was playing this amplifier from 92 dB up to 95 dB for hours and hours at a time, and the amp never got hot. It got a little bit warm, but that's it. This front faceplate is 6 millimeters thick. Then here down on the front, we do have the Galion written in. Then you have your on and off switch. This amplifier does not have a standby switch. That may be a caveat for some people out there, that you can only have this off or on. So now let's go to the back of the amplifier. Oh, one more thing. Here is your module inside to turn the amplifier off and on. I don't think I missed out on anything, so now let's go to the back. So now we're at the back of the amplifier. Very simple. You can see in the top left hand corner we have our right input RCA. Really nice quality. Then in the middle of it in the XLR we do have our switch to choose between them. There's your XLR input. Then we have our 5-way binding post, our power IEC inlet, and right below that inlet, which it's actually connected together, is your main fuse. So you don't have to take off the cover to get to the main fuse in case that fuse does ever blow. And the same thing on the other side. I mean, for $1,500 US, this amplifier is very impressive. And one thing I love to do to my amplifiers, I like to take a neodymium magnet to see if it will actually magnetize to the amp. And it doesn't. And to show you this is a strong magnet, watch this. There you all have it. So now let's talk about the performance of the Galion TS-A75. Okay everyone, very quickly, I'm going to go over my subjective humble opinion of the sound performance and tonal character of Galion's very own TS-A75, which I've had this 2-channel power amplifier for the last 5 to 6 months. I've hooked up over 7 different sets of speakers with the TS-A75, and I hooked up about 5 or 6 different preamps with the amplifier as well. Now, I like to do this to give me a better understanding of the performance and to be able to answer any questions that you all have down in the comment section. So now let's get straight into talking about how does this $1,500 US gem of a power amplifier, how does it sound and perform? Well, first off, if you're somebody that is looking for an amplifier that just has amazing measurements to it, then the TS-A75 probably isn't going to be for you. I'm just going to keep it straight up and real with you. But if you're somebody that does like amplifiers that have a little bit of color to it, have a little bit of a different character to it, then yes, this TS-A75 may just be for you all. First off, let's start off with the bass. If you was to bring this amplifier home, hook it up in your living room, the first thing you're going to say to yourself is, damn, Gina, this thing has some balls to the bass. I mean, even up into the mid-range, the overall heft, flesh, body, and weight to the overall sound is so... It is so damn impressive with this amplifier. Again, do not let the watts fool you. You know, it's rated at 75 watts at 8 ohms and 100 watts at 4 ohms. But that doesn't matter. What matters is the quality of watts. I have amplifiers that are rated more power than the TS-A75, but I'm here to tell you right now, it will not drive speakers like the TS-A75 does. Now, I'm going to give you an example. Now, this may not be a fair comparison because it's half the price, and yes, this is my Vidar 2, which is rated at 100 watts at 8 ohms and 200 watts at 4 ohms. But I can tell you right now, the TS-A75 does a lot better job of controlling my speakers, especially my speakers that are dropping down below 4 ohms. Now that is a given because the TS-A75, of course, is double the price point of the Vidar 2. Now I did give the Vidar 2 an award on my channel because for its price point, yes, it performs very well. But the TS-A75 is a complete step above. I mean, it has this big, robust sound to it. And the bass to me, especially with my speakers like my Triangle 40th Anniversary Edition Cometes. You all, Stereo Review, measure those speakers at 135 hertz all the way down to 2.5 ohms. So a lot of my speakers, amplifiers, have a hard time driving those speakers when it comes to that low-end bass and those low-end impedance dips. I told everybody, those Triangle 40ths like a lot of power. If you do not give those speakers the power they require, they will sound very thin, they will sound very lean. You really need to give them an amplifier with some balls to it, like the TS-A75. One hell of a good match. So good that I uploaded a short 1-minute video for you all where I was actually playing Zabu's track Drowned. And I'll even put that link down in the description box so you all can watch it. I mean, I was sitting there driving those Triangle 40s effortlessly. That 6.5 mid-range driver, I mean, it was flexing, y'all. But the really thing that I love about this amplifier, not only can it drive speakers that drop down in those low impedance, and remember, there's no speaker that just stays at 4, 6, or 8 ohms. That impedance dips is always moving with the music playing back, whatever track you're playing. It just don't settle on one impedance. You know, you have those impedance dips and those phase angles. And one thing you want an amplifier to do is completely control your speaker effortlessly with lots of headroom and dynamic range. Even over here, I got my Polk Audio LSIM703s. These speakers drop all the way down to 3 ohms. They do like power. Even when I reviewed these speakers, I told people, I was like, hey, if you buy these Polk Audio LSIM703s, they do love a lot of power. When I hooked up the TS-A75 to them, you all, not only could I turn the volume up really loud, but at those louder volumes, there wasn't that distortion. And what I mean by that is when I turned this amplifier up to like 70-75% with the triangles and my Polks and even my Dyne Audio MT50 tower speakers, or my Kev LS50 meta speakers, or the Kev Q350s, this amplifier was driving them effortlessly. This amplifier never even got hot on me, just got just a little bit warm. So that is something that's very impressive about this amplifier. And yes, it has your typical V-shaped sound character. But I actually wouldn't call it a V-shaped sound character, even though it has boosted bass and a little bit boosted treble. I'd call it more as a wide U-shaped sound character, because the mid-range doesn't sound drawn back. It still has plenty of presence in that mid-range. Even when the vocals never sounded recessed or drawn back to me. I mean, it didn't sound like it had that upper mid-range or lower treble forwardness to it. That's not there, so it kind of knocks out, you know, that hardness, that kind of bite that the upper mid-range can have, like something like my Yamaha 52-pound integrated amplifier, the AS1100. Yes, it has a little bit of a bite to it. I kind of wished it didn't, and that amplifier is very picky with speakers overall. I mean, very picky. But anyways, there is still plenty of mid-range presence. Now we get up into the top end. Now you'd think a V-shaped sound character that top end would be really bright and crispy and a lot of sizzle on the top end. But it's not like it with the TS-A75. Yes, there's lots of information in those top treble registries, but it has this softness to it. You know, it's not like it's rounded off or rolled off. It's just like it gets up there to like not the top of the treble, but one step below the treble. It's like really lively, like right there. But once you get to that top liveliness, it just has this like softness to it, where my ears don't get over fatigued. And another thing about this amplifier is you can really tailor the sound of it depending on the preamplifier, meaning this amplifier is sensitive to preamps, meaning you can really have different sounds by using different preamplifiers with it. I'm going to give you all some examples. I used my Schiit Freya Pluses, and I had the Schiit Freya Novel as well. Both of those tube preamplifiers, they do have a little bit of warm color to them. And they do have a little bit sizzle at top. Schiit Audio is known for that top end sizzle. Well, when I paired them up to the TS-A75, yes, it did sound a little bit on the warm side of neutral. But then let's say I hook up something like my Audiolab 6000A integrated amp that I put in dedicated preamp mode. This one blew me away when I hooked it up to the TS-A75. Almost couldn't believe it, y'all. It was so close to being neutral sounding. I'd say it just barely had just a little bit of warmth to it. But if you're somebody that owns the Audiolab 6000A and you're wanting more power, you want to take the overall resolution, you know, 2 or 3 steps above of what you're listening to, look, I'm going to stand by it. If you own the 6000A and you want to take it a couple more levels up, buy the TS-A75. Your ass will thank me for it. Now, I also use the Audiolab 7000A that I just got done video reviewing. That's the last video before this one. And I absolutely love that integrated amp, especially the built-in DAC in it is absolute fire, you all. Now that amplifier does have more power than the previous 6000A, and would I really recommend that new Audiolab 7000A? Would I recommend you using it just as a preamp to hook up to the Galion TS-A75? Probably not, because that amplifier is like $1,800 US, and it has good enough power. But if you wanted to take it about a level above that Audiolab 7000A, yeah, go ahead and get you the TS-A75. You could actually buy amp as well. You can leave those Audiolab amplifiers in integrated amp mode, and the pre-outs still work in the back. So if you wanted to buy amp one of your speakers, like my Polk Audio LSI M703. Now, when I hooked up my Burson Composer DAC, oh shit, you all. That DAC, one thing I love about it is when you use it as a preamp, you have two gain stage. You have low gain output and you have high gain output. And that was really fun going back and forth between them. And I will recommend that if you're using a preamp, allow it to at least be 2 volts of output that you're putting into the TS-A75. You go anything a little bit lower than that, then you're probably going to starve the amp a little bit of the signal. So make sure you have at least a good solid 2 volts. But back to the Burson Composer. You all, when I hooked it up to the Galion TS-A75, and I was sitting there thinking, you know, my Burson Composer, I got about $1,500 in it because I have 4 high-performance Sparkos dual discrete op amps that were like $90 each. So I have like $1,500 in that DAC preamp. But hooked up to the TS-A75, y'all, I could not believe how clean, articulate the overall sound was. And I was even again kicking the volume up to 70 to 75%, and the speakers were just maintaining its composure without distortion. What I mean is I wasn't getting that smearing effect. All the instruments and the artists were really separated out very good. Now, even when I hooked up my KEF LS50 Meta speakers up to the TS-A75. Now, those speakers do like a little bit of power, but, you know, they go down to about 4 ohms. What was I playing? I was playing Bronski's Beat, Small Town Boy. Now, this is just mainly vocals, because I wanted to hear how good the vocals was with the TS-A75. And y'all, the overall resolution and reverb and the decay of his vocals during that track is you can really hear how deep and how long and wide that sound stage is. I mean, that reverb. You all need to check out that song. I'm going to put it right up here for y'all, put a picture of it, because I want you all to hear this song.
Hold on a platform, the wind and the rain on a sad and lonely face.
I just had to do that playback very quickly for y'all of them vocals. Because the one thing about the TS-A75 that really shocked me was how natural the vocals were sounding. You know, it wasn't too forward sounding. It wasn't too hard. It was just right. Even on those KEF LS50 Meta speakers, they can sound a little crispy. They can sound a little metallic. And I do love those speakers to death. And the thing that it showed me with the TS-A75 is that it's not over revealing. It is just revealing enough to keep you totally engaged to the music. Again, the top end treble does have this softness to it. And the amplifier does an excellent job at imaging. There's very good separation. There's very good localization. Now, one of my speakers, the Dyne Audio M50 Tower speakers I'm going to review soon, when it comes to imaging, they do an okay job. Now, and I did mess with the toe in and toe out and the placement basically of the speaker, but when I hooked up the TS-A75, y'all, not only music, but even when I was watching movies, and I was watching the movies Free State of Jones, awesome movie. And about 47 minutes into that video, the main characters, Matthew McConaughey, and there was another lady too, I forgot her name, but they were like out in the swamp, and the people that were chasing them had these dogs. Well, I could actually hear the dogs barking in behind me. I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this is going on with the M50s. So yes, if you don't have good imaging out of this amplifier, then there is something definitely wrong with your speakers. It's got really good sparkle, again, without being over revealing. It's just not a bright sounding amplifier. Again, it has that softness up top. Now back to preamplifiers. Yes, this amplifier is sensitive to preamplifiers, meaning you can really change the overall tonal character by using different preamplifiers. So you can use the flavor that you want to with the TS-A75. Now my favorite was my Burson Composer DAC preamp with the TS-A75. It was so clean and dynamic, you all, and it had this amplifier has such good headroom with my most demanding speakers, again, driving them effortlessly. Second place, yes, my Audiolab integrated amplifiers in direct preamp mode. I like that pairing with the Galion TS-A75 better than I did with the Freya Pluses. Now with those Freya 2 preamplifiers, yes, they're a little bit warmer sounding. So if you did have a pair of speakers that are really bright and crispy and you wanted to tone that down, yeah, preamp like the Freyas match up to the TS-A75 may be just for you. So now, really quickly, I want to compare the TS-A75 to some more expensive amplifiers that I have reviewed on this channel, or I'm getting ready to review on this channel. First off, I reviewed my Audiolab 8300 XP 2-channel power amp, about a 30-pound power amplifier. Comes in at $2,700 US, so almost double the price point of the TS-A75. And one thing, when I reviewed the XP 8300, I told people this amplifier is very well balanced. There's no boosted bass, no boosted treble, there's no upper mid-range forwardness, there's no recess mid-body to it at all, and it was damn near colorless. I mean, there was hardly no color to that amplifier at all. And I'm sure it probably does measure really good. Now, some people will like that, but during my review of the 8300 XP, I compared it against my 52-pound Yamaha AS1200. Now, that is a $3,000 integrated amp, but the one thing I said I wish the 8300 XP had, I wished it had a little bit more flesh and body and weight to the overall sound, and I wished it had just a little bit more of a bass boost to the overall sound. And that's the one thing that I love about the TS-A75. Even though it's rated 75 watts at 8 ohms and 100 watts at 4 ohms, the 8300 XP was rated at 140 watts at 8 ohms and 230 watts at 4 ohms. And if you was to A/B test both of these amplifiers and you didn't know their wattage, you would say that the TS-A75 was a much more powerful amplifier. It just has that body and that overall weight to it. And I don't want to make the Audiolab people out there mad at me, because there will be people out there that like the 8300 XP. But if I had to choose between them, and this is totally subjective, yes, I would pick the TS-A75 by Galion every single day of the week. I like my amplifier to have a little bit flavor to it. You know, to me, your amplifier is the foundation of your hi-fi system. And I would even tell you, spend the majority of your money into your preamp and amp instead of like your speakers or your transport or even your dicrophone or EQ, because today speakers have evolved, you all. I mean, they evolved to a level that these budget speakers and entry-level speakers are performing very well. And they're going to perform even better the better amplifier that you can hook up to them to drive. Now, when it comes to the overall resolution of that almost $3,000 Audiolab 8300 XP and the $1,500 US Galion TS-A75, when it comes to that overall resolution, I would still give the win to the Galion TS-A75. To me, it does sound, you know, in those top registries, it does sound a little bit more natural to me, especially when it comes to those vocals. Now let's talk about an amplifier that's $4,500 US. No other than my Galion TS-120 SE. This is a 70-pound tube integrated amplifier. It costs 3 times the price of the TS-A75 made by the same company, and when it comes to that overall resolution, yes, I would give it to the TS-120 SE. I mean, again, it's 3 times the price point, and I'd say it's about a level, maybe a level and a half above the TS-A75 compared to the preamps that I have hooked up to the TS-A75. But if I had to give you all percentage, I'd tell you straight up, the TS-A75 is at least 80 to 85% of the performance of the Galion TS-120 SE. This is a gem of an amplifier. Now, am I going to sit here and tell you all that it's this giant killer? Well, I'll tell you what, it's pretty close to it, because I do not know of a 2-channel amplifier or even an integrated amplifier under $3,000 or $4,000 US that can compete with this amplifier with the right preamp in front of it. And it all comes down to your personal taste. But if you have any kind of questions at all, just ask me down in the comment section. But I will tell y'all this. This has been one of my favorite amplifiers that I have had on this channel for its price point. It'll be one of the #1 amplifiers that I recommend. And the more people that get this amplifier in their house, I'm going to tell you this, the hype's just going to get better and better. Not only does it have really good sound and performance to it, but the overall build quality inside outweighs its price point. I mean, you all, this is a gem of a 2-channel power amplifier. If Thomas would have sent me this amplifier and said, TJ, you guess the price and you guess the power output, I would have guessed that this would have at least been a $2,500 amplifier, and I would have guessed it was like 125 watts at 8 ohms and 200 watts easily at 4 ohms. Again, this amplifier has some balls to it. Really good flesh and body and weight to it. And yes, the lower end bass does have this rich tonal character to it. But it doesn't bleed up into the mid-range and top end. It is cleaner once you start going up that frequency response. And again, it's not too revealing sounding. I will say, you know, with my $4,500 Galion TS-120 SE, yes, that amplifier is better resolution, it's more airy, it has better sparkle, and it's more revealing. So it's not as forgiving sounding as the TS-A75 as well. And you all, when I paired this up to my Burst and Composer, if you don't use analog inputs, you can use a Burst and DAC that also is a preamp, and I think you'd be surprised of how clean, articulate this amplifier sounds. Very good sound stage for the price point. Again, I don't know of another amplifier that can beat it. I just don't know of one. And yes, that is 100% subjective. But again, more and more people that buy this amplifier, that hype's just going to keep going. And Thomas, you absolutely knocked this one out of the ballpark. And not only that, to end this video up, I will tell you all this. Galion Audio, with their TS-A75 for its price point, it just put all other audio companies unnoticed. Checkmate.